Welcome to the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast, where feelings aren't felt and snowflakes melt. Buckle up, it's gonna be a bumpy ride.
These confines with a monarch's voice cry havoc! And let slip the dogs of war. To my city steps. You insult my queen. You threaten my people with slavery and death. Oh, I've chosen my words carefully, Persian. Perhaps you should have done the same.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
Madness. This is Sparta!
They painted over ants.
Welcome to episode 72 of the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast. I got to tell you, folks, I did not know that we were going to do a podcast this week. I was actually thinking about mailing it in and telling my boy Russ over there in the wilds of Tennessee, big Koop up here in the Pacific Northwest, that I just couldn't do it because I suffered a tragedy. I suffered a huge tragedy in my life this week. One of the biggest ones I've suffered in, 2020, since 2020 anyway. Overall, rough. It was a so Russ was working with me back when the Seahawks. This is parenthetical. Lost the Super Bowl to the refs and Pittsburgh simultaneously
in January 2006.
That's you betcha believe it. And you remember that I didn't show up for work at all.
Oh, yes.
It was kind of famous around there because I'm not that guy. I'm completely not that guy. Early, late, whatever it takes, get the mission accomplished. I don't care. Give up my weekends. I don't give a shit. But I didn't show up for work and I didn't call anybody either. And the reason is because that broke my heart so badly that all I did was sit in my study and God bless my ex. We were actually on the way out of our relationship at that point, but she knew enough to just go, I'm just going to go to the store and buy a case of Fat Tire and bring it over and put it in the study for him, and I'll take the empties out. That happened for 2 days after that Super Bowl. I was so brokenhearted because I'd been the biggest Seahawks fan my entire life. And this was my one shot.
You're quite obnoxious about it, as I recall.
Absolutely. And this was the Holmgren Seahawks. And I really thought they deserved to win that game. I really did. I thought they put the effort in. I thought they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I honestly still think that the refs fucked them in that game. I do. Being an objective person, you can't go back and look at that and go, might have been a fix on that game. I was so distraught. And the one thing I want to say is that our boss, Mark, who we both love dearly, who is in my opinion, a saint of a man, who was a great commander, great leader, great man, just a great man. I have nothing but love for that person. I thought for sure he was going to rip me a new one when I finally staggered back in after my 48-hour binge and being on the internet and just telling everybody how much I hated them, God, referees, the NFL, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I hope all your parents fucking die in a bus fire. I don't even care. And what, I don't know if you remember this, but Mark was actually a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
I do not remember that.
Yeah. This is kind of the cool part of the story. And I walk in and I am fully prepared to face the music because me, I'll accept responsibility for my failures. And I walk up to him and I've said, sir, and all he did was walk up to me and he puts his arms around me and hugs me. He goes, I'm so sorry, brother. That's all he ever said to me. He didn't chastise me. He didn't yell at me. He didn't do shit. That's how great a leader and a great man that guy was. So he's always in my heart and soul. So I went through something similar when my Washington Huskies failed to execute and show up, really. In many ways, although I have thoughts about that. I thought they outplayed Michigan for at least 2 quarters. It just was something was wrong with Michael Penix and something was off about the offense. The defense actually, after that first drive, showed up. But then it just center of mass just went out of the air. But I believe that this was going to be the year. 32 years later after the last one, that I believe this was going to be the year. I just believe we were the team of destiny, and it fucking hurt, my brother. It fucking hurt. It hurt bad.
All right. Well, all right. Let me say a few things. First of all, you're right. Mark was a great leader. I think he might have been a little bit afraid that you were going to that you would have choke slammed him, said something, even though he was the leader. I mean, you do give off that vibe sometimes. And I do remember one of the cadets trying to give you a hard time very briefly, and you were less than charitable, if I remember right.
About his mother's virtues?
Yes.
Yes.
So anyway, regarding the game, this one was not a referee fix. After the first drive, I felt that if Washington's defense was playing like that, they'd have won. But Penix was off. He was throwing high.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this. I don't know who that number 73 is that was on the offensive line. But it seemed like there were 2 or 3 times that Washington would get a decent play, and he would be called for holding or something along those lines.
Yeah.
There was one, they were down 17-10. They were starting to make a run down the field. They got like a 30-yard completion, and it was called back because number 73 was holding. And then he was doing something another few plays later. Washington just couldn't get into the end zone to actually start to come back to the game. They let this is going to be a bad sports analogy because they weren't in front when they let Michigan hang around, but that's kind of what they did. They gave Michigan enough breathing room to where Michigan could start to separate. And it was just the Michigan defense, I didn't think did anything tremendous, but Penix was high. He was not as accurate as I thought he would be.
Penix had his worst game since Arizona State, and he's been hurt and he's been banged up in the season. And I'm sure that's what was going on there because I've never.
The running back had a bad ankle too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He had he had a bad ankle and a bad knee on the other side. So we were banged up going into that game. I don't make excuses for anything, but I'm going to tell you this: if Washington had an average offensive game, just an average, just like take their mean over the season, we would be national champions. The offense was as bad as I've seen it since Arizona State, where we basically squeaked out with a win. The first time Michael Penix got challenged and beaten up a little bit. I honestly thought halfway through the fourth quarter that we were going to win the game because it's like, okay, Penix will figure this out. He's going to connect. He's going to, Odunze, he's going to do a 60-yarder. It's going to be something. We're going to go up. This defense is playing really well, actually, for Washington because we don't have a great defense.
Normally it's the other way around. Normally Washington's offense has to bail out his defense.
Right. And so it was just heartbreaking to see that at the very end, and that interception he threw was terrible. And that's when I got up and I just started washing dishes. And I'm just like, fuck it. And then Michigan scores twice more, in the background. And it's like, don't you want to watch this? Fuck you. I want to watch this ceremony. Are you out of your goddamn mind? I'm like, no, I'm, you know what? So I sat down, put on a movie, and then I'm just like, you know what? Fuck this. I went to bed like whatever it was, like 8:00, and just laid there and licked my wounds. And I'm still licking my wounds. For those of you that see us on Facebook, you'll uncharacteristically see me wearing a ball cap and my glasses and all that kind of stuff. Because I haven't been showering much lately. I did not go into that 2-day, drunky drunk, of course, that I did back then. I have a different life now, but I have been clinically depressed since that happened. I'm not going to lie. I've been taking long drives with the coon hound and, trying to find as much joy as I can. But for those of you that don't know me, this hurts as bad as anything to me. It really does. And I think this is a good segue into, by the way, tonight, because I have been out of it and I don't know a lot about what's going on after I shut up. Russ is going to run the show tonight. Usually I'm kind of the showrunner and moving and doing all this stuff, but I asked Russ to do it because I haven't paid much attention to what's going on out there. I do have some opinions and some ideas, but we can segue into the coaching carousel that's going on. But Russ, I guess I'll just say that we're losing most of our stars off the team. I don't know what's going to happen next year in a lot of ways, whether we're going to keep our coach because he's being mentioned for Alabama. He's being mentioned for Ohio State. He's even been mentioned for the fucking Seahawks up here. A lot of people are talking he might jump up to the Sea, which is insane to me. But they'll go with one of their boys because that's how that organization is. But yeah, that sucked, Russ. The end of the game was not indicative, I don't think, of the effort on the field. I don't think the Huskies didn't show any effort or toughness. I think they did. I think they outplayed Michigan for 2 quarters, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, well, when I still had a small hope for him until Penix threw the second interception that the guy ran all the way back. I thought he was going to run it back to the end zone. He ran to like the 6 or something like that.
Right.
As soon as that happened, I went ahead and changed the channel, and I said, Coop's going to be pissed. Just so y'all know, no, I was not texting Coop during the game. As much shit as I give people, when you have that kind of a thing, that's not something I'm going to give people shit for. I don't even talk big shit usually before a game unless my team is such an underdog they have absolutely no business winning.
Right.
Because I tend to think that it jinxes me and can come back to bite me in the ass. But if they're such a big underdog, I'll talk junk just because we're playing with house money. The funk thing, I know some folks, especially probably some of the female fans, will be like, can't believe you're this upset over a football game. This is the way guys get sometimes, especially something that they're so emotionally attached to. I don't know if you remember, this wasn't when Holmgren was coaching the Seahawks, but when Holmgren was coaching the Packers, the second Super Bowl that they went to, the one where they lost to the Denver Broncos, Holmgren said that he was in a deep funk for like a couple of weeks after that.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
He's the head coach.
I'm
I
sure.
get it.
I'm sure.
When my Panthers 15-1 went to the Super Bowl back in 2016 and screwed it up, and there are 3 plays that changed the entire game. I can remember each one of them, but I was kind of down. I was in Saudi Arabia at the time. I was kind of down for 4 or 5 days afterwards because it's one of the things you get built up. All right, we haven't made it to the top. It might be different if we had for example, if the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl now and lost, I'm sure Koop would be upset, but not as upset as he would have been before they won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay. Teams that enjoy success, you're like, okay, we got to the mountaintop. Another time is great, but that's the cherry on top. So it's getting to that mountaintop that I think everybody wants to do, just to feel that just once. And so the disappointment of that, because you also know how rare it is. I mean, like you said, 32 years since the Huskies were here last time. Your teams don't get to the Super Bowl every year. You're lucky if they get there once every decade or two. So it just doesn't happen very often. And so it almost, even though you're not the one putting in the work, it kind of feels like it because you're putting in a lot of the emotional work. You got so much invested. So I get it. Using this kind of as a segue to the coaching thing, I do want to say one thing about Kalen DeBoer is I don't think he should make a jump to the NFL. I know he's going to be courted, but I don't care what team it is.
Yeah, I don't see that. I don't see it.
Just for everybody who knows me, I do not believe in college coaches going to the NFL. It almost never works. I can think of exactly 3 times that I can remember where it worked. That was Jimmy Johnson. That was, and I know Coop won't like this, but it did work, was Pete Carroll. And now, in fairness to Pete Carroll had coached in the NFL before going to USC and going back to the NFL.
That was his second time around. Right.
Yeah, and then a guy that I know Coop hates right now, but did win in San Francisco, was Jim Harbaugh.
I think Jim Harbaugh will go to the NFL, and I think he'll be successful. I think Jim Harbaugh, I don't like him, but I think he's a great coach. I can, those two things can be true at once, by the way. You know what I'm saying?
But outside of that, college coaches, they're used to having their, all right, I don't want to say it, having their way with other men, but being able to run roughshod over younger men, and they're dealing with actual grown men in the NFL. It's a lot different. They're not king of the hill anymore. The job is for 3 years at most if you're not doing well. Where in college, you can establish yourself. You're king of the hill. You'll be there. If you're successful, you'll be there as long as you want to be. All you need is 1 or 2 good, successful years, and you can ride that wave, and then you can go on to a bigger, better job. But Bobby Petrino to Steve Spurrier to even Nick Saban, Matt Rule, they have all failed in the NFL.
And you're talking elite college coaches here. You're talking elite minds and strategists and all that kind of thing who failed miserably at that next level. I think Harbaugh's personality translates really well to the NFL.
Yeah.
I do.
But he was a quarterback too.
Right.
A quarterback. So he understood a lot of that. Plus, you remember, I mean, he did go to a Super Bowl. Now he only lasted a few years in San Francisco because he and the ownership didn't get along.
Right.
But still, I mean, he did well. Jimmy Johnson did well, but Jimmy Johnson took over a team that was, horrible, and he was playing for an old buddy of his.
Right.
So he had some of the leverage. It just doesn't work very well, especially in the modern era. But I also understand why some coaches are leaving. One of the things we mentioned Nick Saban, who's basically a god at Alabama, has decided to hang up his hat and leave. And I think Jimmy Johnson was on the Herd with Colin Cowherd, a week or two ago, and he put it exactly right. College head coaching is not what it once was. Where you had your season, you had a little bit of conditioning that you were overseeing in the offseason, you maybe did a little bit of recruiting, but it was your scouting staff that basically clued you into guys, and you just had to go visit them. Now with NIL, with the transfer portal, you're having to do a lot of recruiting of your own players. Folks who are already there on the team, you're having to convince them to stay, and then you still got to go out and convince other kids to come in.
Right.
And
right.
It's a completely different ball game than it used to be. And I don't think at the age of 72, I think it's 72 or 71, Nick Saban wanted to play that game anymore. He doesn't have anything left to prove. I think Nick Saban was a good
coach. He
coach.
doesn't. Arguably the greatest coach in college history.
Well,
arguably.
Here's what I'm going to say.
He's on that Mount Rushmore. He's on the Mount Rushmore.
Well, I'm sure I'm going to stir up a hornet's nest on Facebook when I took at least partial issue with that contention on somebody's thread. I'm sure Nick Saban is a great coach. But if he compiled the record that he has now at like Youngstown State or James Madison, then I'd say yes, without question. But it's kind of hard for me to completely buy, folks who, got on second base and then suddenly want credit when they get to third for hitting a triple. I'm not sure, because Alabama's reputation, just like LSU's reputation, they can recruit the top players. This isn't the NFL where it is. Maybe it's becoming this way now with the transfer portal and all the other stuff. But before, Alabama was always going to get a great recruiting class. Texas was always going to get a great recruiting class, because what happens is when a team gets to a certain level, it becomes self-reinforcing at that point. It's a self-licking ice cream cone. You're good, so you get better players. You get better players, you get better results. Then you get better players, and it kind of snowballs from there. So I'm sure there's a lot of SEC fans upset at me right now. Don't get me wrong, Nick Saban may be up there, but let's not forget Alabama also had Bear Bryant. You got other coaches that are out there. It would have been interesting to see the result we've had at, say, Oklahoma State or Texas A&M before going to Alabama. And I don't know his coaching tree before. I know he was the head coach of LSU and he won a national title there. And that's, a big part of his legacy. I get it. I need to think more before I crown him as the greatest of all time.
Well, I'm not calling him the GOAT. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that he's in that conversation on that Mount Rushmore conversation.
You're probably right. But speaking of
greatest
of all, speaking of coaches that have been called GOATs, you also got Bill Belichick is no longer with the Patriots as of today.
Right.
And he's been called the greatest of all time. Now Bill Belichick's a great coach, but it's easy to be great when you have the greatest quarterback of all time playing for you, who kind of, to be honest, lucked into the job. The only reason he was even on the field was Drew Bledsoe got hurt.
Right.
Now, luck's a big part of the game. I get that. But notice that Belichick really didn't have a lot of success without Brady. So it's a coach-quarterback in tandem thing. I don't think Bill is able to adapt to the modern game. And I think he is absolute shit when it comes to drafting offensive players. He got one right in Rob Gronkowski, and all of his other skill position players have sucked. He knows defense, and he's great at defense, but he needed to leave the offense to somebody else. And I don't think he understands how to transition to a more modern game. As an example, back in 2004, when they beat the Indianapolis Colts to go to the Super Bowl, that was the time when you could hand check, and rough player, the wide receivers all the way down the field. Now specifically because of that game, you can't touch them beyond 5 yards. That changes defense. It's a more offense-oriented league now than it was 20 years ago. So he has not adapted to the modern game, and that's one of the reasons he's out. Because I would have thought that Belichick would have wanted to stay in long enough to break Don Shula's all-time wins record. But at this rate, it's going to take him another 6 years to get there.
Yeah. And you bring up an interesting point, which I think about all the time. I was joking with our friend Derek Johnson, or my friend Derek Johnson, on when I did the Husky Hardcore podcast with him, that I mentioned. I don't remember who the hell I was talking about. He's like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of college football or something. Men who like to smell their own farts. And you got the Bill Belichick's, you've got the Nick Sabans, and I honestly, all the 12s, fuck you. Pete Carroll,
who's also out of a job because he could not figure it out and couldn't adapt and couldn't change. The offense is like 1978 looking shit going on out there, and the defense sucks. And then you get people like that who are inflexible. One of the things I love about the Washington Huskies coach is the story about the first time he went to the national championship at Sioux Falls when he was coaching at that level, and they got boat raced 56-3. And he said, "Okay, I think I know what I need to change." He looked at the game, he looked at it, and they won 3 national championships after that in a row. Don James famously, in the late 80s, the Dogfather, the Washington Husky coach, who got boat raced in a bowl game as well, said, "Okay, we need to recruit speed, and speed from now on," because he even knew that his system. Now, Don James's offense were never cutting edge. They were very pro style, run right, run left, throw on third down, but they had such huge offensive lines and such dominating offensive lines, and the defenses were so dominant. But he saw what he needed to do to change. And Don James was a younger man then, and then it led to a national championship. It led to the best athletes. Arguably it's not even arguably, one of the top 10 teams in college football history was the 91 Washington Huskies. It's just statistically true. And I watched every game. Those people that you mentioned lack that, I think, a little bit, if you know what I'm saying. They lack that ability to kind of do that self-evaluation. Excuse me. Bill Belichick is like, I win, I am who I am. And the guy's obviously an asshole. He's a complete fucking asshole. Nick Saban's a fucking asshole. These guys, he is. Just everything he does. But you look at coaches that are willing to do that look in the mirror and they say, what do I need to do to change? Now, Pete Carroll's not an asshole. Very popular up here in the Pacific Northwest because he's like, "Hey, I'm jazzed, guys. I'm going to chew my gum and wear my dungarees with my dad's shoes and run up and down and cheer a lot." And he's likable. Not to me, because I hate guys like that. But I just do. Those guys annoy me. But just bring it down a notch, partner. That's always what I want to kind of say. Bring it down a notch. Fuck, too many Starbucks today. But I get why people like him, but he's that way too. He has not changed his philosophy since he got here. He had a ridiculous murderer's row of talent when we won the Super Bowl that year. Just a murderer's row of talent when we won the Super Bowl that year. The last great offensive line that he ever had, the Legion of Boom defense, which was out of this world. I would put it right up there with the 1984 Chicago Bears defense as one of the greatest defenses in 85. NFL history. Excuse me. Yeah, 85. I would put it right up there with the 85 Bears as one of the greatest defenses in history. So I think, and it's like, well, he made the playoffs 10 out of, 13 years that he coached. Hell, he backed in with a 7-9 team, and I was there when I saw that Marshawn. You remember the argument we used to have about that one.
We did. That 7-9 team where I saw the Marshawn Lynch run against New Orleans at here in Seattle. I was there at the game. It was beautiful. I didn't think they deserved to go to the playoffs. With Geno Smith, the playoff, it's a fucking joke that they went to the playoffs that year too, in my opinion, another down year. So I would say legitimately he might have had 8 teams out of 13 that were deserving. And I think 3 out of those 8 at 13 years, he was actually able to put them into the position of being in the playoffs. That's not a great coach, in my opinion. And he's never changed his style. He's never, it's just the same old bullshit. So a lot of people over here in Seattle are like crying over their goddamn avocado toast right now, watching him walk out the door. But I'm not. I think it's been time for a change for a while. I hope the fuck they don't bring in his prior defensive coordinator who's just in his school of thought and all that. I hope they do an outside the box hire. I really do. And get some new blood and some new ideas in here because our defense is junk. Geno Smith, bull, like I said, he looks like a drug dealer out there to be throwing the football around. And that's not a racist statement. He's just an odd looking guy. It's just like bull. And he's not a great quarterback. They haven't drafted quarterback and they haven't bolstered the offensive line in years. And it's silly. It's silly. That's to me, that's 101, bro. You start with the offensive line and make sure you have a great quarterback behind center. And I'll defend Russell Wilson. I don't like Russell Wilson personally. I think he's a prima donna piece of shit as a human being. But they never protected that man. The only reason they won is because Russell Wilson knew how to scramble around like a squirrel behind that line. They never gave him a pocket to throw in. Never happened. And it's just kind of fluky that we won the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Well, look, you said you talked about wanting an out of the box hire. I don't know if it'd be out of the box. I don't have a name. I'm just saying it was a fairly dramatic shift to go from Mike Holmgren to Pete Carroll. So maybe they would look at some kind of a dramatic shift. I think
different owner now, though. By the way, it's Paul Allen's sister and a lot of different group.
Okay.
In there because Paul Allen passed away. God bless him.
Yeah.
And it's his sister and a different group. And I'm not bad mouthing them. I'm just saying I don't know if they're going to have that same. I don't know. And they're keeping him on, by the way, in the organization in some capacity.
That's a pity fuck. That's all
it is. And I don't like that. I think that tells you that he's going to have a lackey of his come in there. And the name is escaping me. His defensive coordinator. Anyway, I think he's probably number one on the list right now to replace him.
Well, at least you have coaches that want to go to Seattle. Nobody wants to go to Carolina because there have been 6 coaches in 6 years.
Yeah, that's insane. The
Panthers have probably the worst owner in the league. He's a shiny object guy who's short-tempered, throws drinks on people from his owner's booth, his owner's box. And then, nobody's going to go. He may be a wizard financially, but he needs to stay out of the football business. He's the reason we drafted Bryce Young from all reports. And I was pushing C.J. Stroud, who was going to win Rookie of the Year hands down, and took Houston to the AFC South title. And Bryce Young I don't even know if Bryce Young is 6 feet tall, can barely see over the line, was getting murdered because his line was like a turnstile. The folks like Carroll and Belichick, and the hardcore coaches, they come in and when they have immediate success because they're such innovators at first, they have a problem adapting because they figure, well, this is what got me here, so I'm going to keep going with it. And it's fine to keep going with it as long as it's working. But when it stops working, you got to figure out something new to do. You got to figure out something new, some way to adapt, like you said, like DeBoer did. And it just, if they don't adapt, then they're not going to go anywhere. And again, you got to have a great quarterback. Every so-called great coach has got the franchise quarterback. Seattle does not have a franchise quarterback right now, I don't believe. There's so few. There's probably 10, maybe 12 true franchise quarterbacks in the league. And if you don't get one, if you miss in the draft, and people miss on the number 1 pick, Jamarcus Russell, they missed on that number 1 pick in Oakland. It happens.
Right. It does happen. Sure. Famously, I cannot believe I'm drawing a blank on this.
Ryan
Leaf, thank you.
Yeah.
Famously,
the most famous bust of all time.
Yeah,
number 2.
Yeah. And I actually, outside of all this bullshit, I know Ryan Leaf a little bit, having gone to some of his motivational talks now that, he's gone through the prison and
he's turned his life around.
Rehab thing. And I have a lot of respect for the guy, but
yeah,
he was the biggest blow up in history, but I'm glad he's doing well. Actually, there's a great documentary out there on Netflix.
I've seen it.
Yep. Anyway,
No,
yeah,
he turned his life around, but he was the biggest bust in NFL history, and he acknowledges that. He says it openly.
Oh yeah,
There was
yeah.
a
No, he
there was
embraces
a
that.
legitimate debate back in '98 as to whether or not Leaf or Manning should be number one. Now imagine that now.
Right. Well,
Um,
Leaf certainly had the talent. I watched him play live
but his
3
ego
times,
was just
3 times against my
insane.
Huskies, and he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. He was. At that time, I thought he was one of the best quarterbacks I'd ever seen play live in my life. But God bless him. He's got his life back on track. I'm not going to talk shit about Ryan Leaf, even though he is a Coug, but that's okay. Even Cougs can find redemption. You know me, I worship that Jewish guy that wore sandals and walked around a lot. So I'm okay with redemption.
All right. So we'll mention some breaking news here in a little bit. But speaking of folks who stuck around too long and finally got out, Chris Christie dropped out of the presidential race
Yes, he
yesterday.
did. Yes, he did.
And this opens up, and we're completely shifting topics here, folks. But this opens up an interesting set of possibilities, in my opinion. Because, first of all, well, let me back up. In New Hampshire, most of Christie's support, I'd say 80+%, is going to go to Nikki Haley because they were vying to be anti-Trump. If Christie drops out, his support will go to Haley. If DeSantis drops out, his support will go to Trump. If Haley drops out, her support probably goes to DeSantis. But DeSantis' support is not going to Haley. Everybody points to the polls in Iowa and talk about how much Trump is up. Well, Iowa is notoriously hard to poll. It's because it's a caucus state. It's not a primary state. It's a lot of on the ground. Get your voters to the local gymnasium. Listen to folks talk. You cast your initial lots. If your candidate isn't doing so good, you can switch your vote. You can be persuaded. To be fair, it's the way I think the party should pick the candidate. I think you should actually have to go and actually have some skin in the game if you want to nominate a candidate for president. So, and nobody saw Pat Robertson winning the 1988 Iowa caucus, or Mike Huckabee winning 2008, or Ted Cruz winning 2016. So it is not out of the realm of possibility that DeSantis, because he's got a very good ground game, and the only ground game Trump has in Iowa is I was President Trump. I don't think he's got much of a ground game there. He's relying on his base to kind of, seal the deal for him, kind of, carry the water there. So here's an interesting set of circumstances. All right. First of all, let's say this. If Trump wins Iowa and New Hampshire, the race is over for the nomination, without question.
Sure.
All right, but let's say DeSantis pulls off an upset in Iowa, or gets at least an extremely close second. Let's say he pulls off an upset in Iowa, and because of the combined support, Haley pulls off an upset in New Hampshire, which is possible. I will admit both of these are unlikely. But if that happens, then it goes to the Nevada caucus, where ground game's a big deal, and then you got South Carolina, which is Haley's home state, and Florida, which is DeSantis' home state. That could make the race very interesting. Now everybody's pointing out, hey, polls got Trump so far ahead. Yeah, well, if we went by that, then back in 2008, we would have had the Republican nominee be Rudy Giuliani, who was leading in all the national polls, leading in Florida, all this other stuff, until McCain took New Hampshire. So and then McCain, I think, took South Carolina in 2008. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's not out of the realm of possibility. I would only put the chance at maybe 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 that it could happen. But Christie dropping out, I believe, alters the dynamic of the race, especially in New Hampshire. And it may give other voters a second look at DeSantis in Iowa. It's either going to do that or it's going to shore up Trump's support because his voters will freak out and try and get everybody else to vote for him. But it's going to change the dynamic a little bit. What are your thoughts, Koop?
Yeah, I don't think I disagree with anything your analysis at all. I watched actually after I got out of my funk of 72 hours, I actually did watch the debate between Haley and DeSantis, and then I watched Trump's town hall. And what I saw was such a difference of coherence and ability to articulate. I'm not saying Haley is I don't hate Nikki Haley. I don't. I think she's a a rhino as Republicans are
I
defending.
think she's an establishment.
I do, and like you've said, and I agree with you. 2008 would have been a great time for Nikki Haley to, be a Republican or something, or in the George First administration. But I think time has passed her by. I think DeSantis crushed her on her link to corporations, to that establishment republicanism, to that influence that she gets from China and all of that kind of thing. I don't think the debate was even debatable. I think DeSantis and everything. Well, DeSantis doesn't have any personality. Doesn't have that. Jesus Christ, I don't care. The guy's competent as fuck. He's by far and away the best governor in the United States of America, and it's not even close. And there's some decent Republican governors out there. But when I watched that town hall from Trump, it was just you are just all I heard was just chicken shit in my ears. I'm sorry. He didn't say one substantive thing about policy, about anything that I actually cared about. At least Nikki Haley, to give her credit, mixed it up with Ron DeSantis about policy, about a lot of stuff. And I'll say this. I hate saying this, but I thought the CNN moderators were far better at doing this debate than any other moderators have been, especially the Fox News people. And I'm not a CNN fan, but I thought they kept it crisp. They kept the candidates to their time limits. They're like, you didn't answer the question. I thought it was a really fairly moderated debate. I really did. I'm like, okay, these two, good on you. Good on you for finding these two to moderate the debate. And I thought it was cool that Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis actually decided to do the last debate on CNN. That's cool. That's cool. I thought that was effective, but I agree with you. I don't know. I got a weird feeling in me, Russ, and it's not even based on, me. I love facts. I love all that stuff, but I like my intuition too. I think Ron DeSantis might be poised to pull an upset at one of these. I don't know. He came across so much stronger and is so much a better leader than Nikki Haley did. If you're going to want a guy that's going to send men into combat or do all these very important things that commanders in chief, and it's not a sexist thing. I like Nikki Haley, and I got no problem with an intelligent woman being president of the United States. I got no problem with it at all. I was always like, oh my God, I'm having a bad night. It's been the stress of losing the national championship, but Condoleezza Rice, I always thought should have stepped up and ran for president at some point because she's brilliant and decisive. And I worshiped that woman when she worked for George W. Bush. I did. I thought she was amazing. I think she's still the chancellor at Stanford. I think.
Yeah, I don't know about. I think you might. I don't know.
But I'll make my point and shut up. But so it's not about that. I'm not trying to say, oh, I'm not a sexist. I'm not a sexist at all, slightly. But God, DeSantis came across as so much more competent and full of facts. And all Nikki Haley would say, well, go to the webpage that, Ron DeSantis is wrong.com. And you'll see that, and it's just like that was her, those were her repartees. And as a guy who used to fence, and I actually did fence and I was very good at it. No, repartee needs to be followed up with something. And a right post and a repartee need to work in tandem together. And she had no right posts. And it was kind of ugly. It was kind of ugly. I actually kind of lost interest in it at one point. I think I nodded off for like 5 minutes because I'm like, Ron DeSantis is just kicking her ass. But I do think on that topic and your analysis, spot on. I do think there could be an upset in the making here. And watching Donald Trump's town hall, and again, apologies to all you always Trumpers that follow us out there. I love you. I understand, but did not come across as presidential material in that town hall at all to me. Came across as angry and kind of stupid. Just saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, in fairness, Trump's not known for his intellect. He's known for his combativeness.
Right.
I think DeSantis' best chance for an upset is Iowa, and then hoping that Haley pulls off an upset in New Hampshire. Because then, if that happens, then the race could really be on. 2 points that I saw the other night, or I saw last night. because I didn't watch much of it. I caught snippets, but two snippets I saw that kind of made me, raise my eyebrow. First from Trump when he was talking about DeSantis, and he's like talking about how he ran against him and he's not a loyal guy. I'm like, dude, loyalty. This is not a dictatorship. Okay, loyalty is not about to you as person. Okay, the loyalty is to the nation. The loyalty is to the Constitution. Stop. If you want a friend in politics, get a dog. Okay, you're not. It doesn't. That's not the way politics works. If you want loyalty, then you need to win. You need to win the voters over. And so Trump, I think Trump's ego, obviously, we've known this for a while, very big. He doesn't really understand some of the systems. Do I think he'd be better than Joe Biden? Yes, but then I think a potted plant would be better than Joe Biden.
I got a coonhound, a 13-year-old coonhound on the floor underneath a husky blanket right now. If we elected him, I'd be all behind him right now. Other than Joe Biden.
Now, one thing I did catch from the debate that DeSantis said that I did not, or went into that I did not care for. Basically, he's talking about no changes to Social Security, not even for younger folks, raising the retirement age, means testing. But I understand folks that are 55 or above, especially those folks, maybe even 50 or above, I don't know. They've paid into it their whole lives. They were, I compare it to the Army retirement system. You joined, with a certain thing, you paid your dues, that's what it gets. But the system's going to go broke. Okay, there's just no way around it. I don't particularly care for the concept of Social Security to begin with. I think it's, let me keep my own money. I'll invest it and spend it as I see fit. You don't need to hold on to it for me. And if somebody wants to do that, they can do that on their own. But I also recognize political realities. You can't just up and get rid of the system right now. But it's going to go broke. One of two things is going to happen if they don't reform the system. It's either taxes are going to go up in a massive way, or they're going to have to cut benefits because the money simply does not exist down the road. We're gonna have so many more people taking money out. And again, one of the issues I have with Social Security is you're not taking out the money you put in. You're taking out far more than you put in. It's not supposed to be, an interest-bearing system. That's one of the problems I have with Social Security. But if you pay in $20, you get $20 back. But I don't think you pay in $20 and you get $80 back. That's how you bankrupt the system. So I understand DeSantis is in Florida, which is the second oldest state in the nation after Maine, and they got a bunch of seniors, and he's got to talk big about Social Security, and Social Security is the third rail. I was like, damn it, man, show a little bit of gumption about, hey, we're going to keep it for the seniors who have it now, and we're going to have to figure out for younger folks under the age of 50 or whatever, that we're going to have to find a way to reform it. I would have much preferred to see that. That was the only stock answer he gave that I did not care for. I thought that particular answer showed a lack of leadership. I wish he would have gone another way. But I also understand that, he doesn't need, sound bites playing either this year or in 4 years about how he's going to, kill grandma and have her starve to death while she's freezing to death in her 1-bedroom, studio apartment. I get that. After the 2024 election, maybe we'll talk about handicapping it for 2028. There's some interesting players out there. In addition to DeSantis for 2028, and there may be somebody that we don't even see yet, but we'll see what happens in Iowa. Iowa's the first real test. By the time Iowa and New Hampshire are over, we'll know if this is going to be a race or not. Now, one thing I don't know if you're aware of is if you've been tracking any of the stuff with the prosecuting attorney in the Georgia case with Trump.
Just maybe 2 snippets.
Okay. First of all, for those who don't know, Fani Willis is the Fulton County DA, and she has a very large office of prosecutors, one of the largest east of Mississippi, surely the largest in the South. And so she's got a lot of tough as nails, go get them prosecutors. And you'd think that she could pick somebody for that case that would really go after Trump. Instead, she plucked a guy named Nathan Wade out of obscurity. Wasn't even part of her DA's office to be the prosecutor in the Trump case. Everybody's kind of like, what's going on? Why did they pick him? Well, come to find out 2 things. First of all, Fani Willis was banging Nathan Wade. So they're having an illicit affair, or were having.
I have not heard this. I've stayed away from the news for like 3 days now. Okay.
Yeah, they were having an illicit affair. I don't know if Fannie Willis is married. I know one of the two of them at least is married, but yeah, they were banging each other, and that's probably why he got picked. Um, and the second thing, Nathan Wade, the district attorney, if I read things right, pulled a Loretta Lynch. You remember when Loretta Lynch met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac in Arizona?
Of course.
I don't know if it's Arizona, but he met on the tarmac.
I don't
Well,
remember where
Nathan
either, but
Wade
yeah.
has met with Joe Biden twice. That to me forms the basis of appeal. If Trump loses, now you've got the prosecuting attorney meeting with the guy's chief political opponent. I don't know if you remember the big deal about sexual assaults in the Army back about 10, 11 years ago, when it was a lot of sexual assault cases were getting dismissed out of court. And you know why? Because President Obama said, "Hey, I expect juries to convict these guys." And who are the juries on court martials? They're military officers usually, and they're not going to vote to acquit when their career and their promotion rides on pleasing the commander in chief. So when Obama opened his mouth and some folks got convicted, they turned right around and appealed it, and their convictions got overturned in a heartbeat. Well, the
That's
same thing
called
could happen here.
for those of you that don't understand military judicial process. No, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Russ.
Go ahead.
That's called unlawful command influence.
Yep.
And it can happen in any level of which is a wonderful thing. When you tell a subordinate prior to a decision what their decision should be, that's against UCMJ. I can't remember what article it is, but it's unlawful command influence. Anyway, go ahead.
That's what Obama did. Basically, imagine prosecuting, a full colonel, and for a jury, they have to be of the same rank or higher rank. So all these folks are GOs, general officers, who are going to have to sit on this jury. There's not a lot of general officers. And who picks general officers? The president.
The president.
How do they get confirmed? They get confirmed by the Senate.
The Senate.
So, a general officer looking after his or her own career is not going to vote to acquit somebody after the president made a big deal about needing to have more conviction rates in the U.S. Army. And Nathan Wade met with Joe Biden at least twice over the last little bit. And so you get the prosecuting attorney.
Wow. I did not know any of this. Yeah, thank you.
With the president, with President Trump's chief political rival. There's, even if all they did was exchange pleasantries, it doesn't matter because Trump can play it up and as something more. So yeah, that's not real good.
No, it sounds like unlawful command influence on the civilian side to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah, no. Wow. Okay. Thank you for enlightening me on that. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I've been a little bit in my little cave in my depression mode. I wasn't playing Fallout 4, which I usually do when I'm depressed. I don't know why I've been playing it, but anyway, I do have a neon sign right there. This is Fallout 4, but
speaking of breaking news, this happened just before the podcast. Koop wasn't up on this. I only got up on this because I happened to scroll through some news channels before we got on. There are American and UK fighter jets conducting. By the time this podcast comes out, y'all will know a little bit more about this than what's going on than what we do right now. But UK and US fighter jets conducting airstrikes on Houthi positions in Yemen. That's near the Red Sea. I don't remember the name of the strait. I know it's not the Strait of Hormuz. That's on the other side, I believe. But it's right there near near where Somalia and the Arabian Peninsula meet. The Houthis have been carrying out drone strikes, launching stuff at shipping lanes. 10% of the world's oil moves through that area. So we had to do something. Letting the Houthis survive is not some. I heard some. All right, I told Koop I was going to talk about this now. I despise reactionary tribal politics. So I was watching Fox News and they were talking about these airstrikes. And, Republicans are usually national security, let's go get them kind of folks. And I'm listening to this dumbass that Laura Ingram's got on talking about, well, I don't know that we should be bombing the Houthis. It might spark a response. These guys have been bombing our tankers for the last month and a half.
A response?
Yeah, I mean,
this guy's been punching me in the dick for fucking 6 months, and
yep.
And I hit him back, and that's a response. Oh my God.
Yeah, the
What
guy.
kind of milquetoast people that we got on this planet these days?
Well, and of course the Chiron underneath him said, name. I don't remember his name, but something Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army, retired. And I'm like, okay, that's gonna just make us retired officers look even more stupid because you're a
So
dumbass and a pussy.
Laura Ingraham should have had you or me on instead of this pussy.
Should have, but she won't. The
I've always kind of had the hots for her. Maybe she would. Who knows?
Yeah. Don't forget that she supported Mitt Romney back in 2008, and then suddenly
That's
he was
true.
a rhino down the road. So
That's true. Anyway,
but to say that there needs to be a massive response. That first of all, that area of the world only understands force.
massive. You're right. Massive. Like
this is not a massive. Yeah, this is not a dance of equals over here where everybody's all wonderful and don't hurt me. That's not the way it works over there. And you can't let the Houthis, who are backed by Iran, get away with going after.
Well, hey everybody, this is Koop, the handsome and debonair one of the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast. Not to mention I'm the only one that's an actual bastard. Google that shit. Don't, actually. Hey, I'm here to do a shameless plug for our merchandise. You can find us at twogrumpybastardsmerchandise.com. We got a whole bunch of new merchandise in. I think you'll like some of the new choices. There's some pro-Second Amendment. There's some anti-Washington State Governor stuff on there. I think you'll really appreciate it. New stuff coming all the time. I have 2 great designs in the works, so please, to support this podcast, that's one of the easiest ways to do it. We're also on Etsy. Yeah, I know, Etsy. You can find our products on eBay as well. Storm King Mercantile is the name of the store there that fronts us. And there's many, many other ways to support this podcast, of course. We have a Patreon page, same thing, Two Grumpy Bastards. We certainly would appreciate you following us on Instagram. Most of you probably know we have a Facebook page, Two Grumpy Bastards Podcast. We have a lot of fun over there, a lot of frivolity, a lot of memes, and a lot of hard-hitting news. Believe it or not, a lot of great people in that group. Also, all of the social media outlets, including now on TikTok. You can find us there. And one of the things that I really wanted to tell you is if you have any feedback for Russ, especially because he kind of sucks, feel free to email us at twogrumpybastards@gmail.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of us, or you can always leave us a comment or an IM on, or DM, I should say. See, I'm so savvy. On our Facebook page. So we really appreciate you listening or watching us over there on YouTube as well. And we hope you do both, because Russ is something to look at. I said something. I didn't say something really great to look at. Anyway, thanks for listening. This is your intrepid, amazing, and grateful host of the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast, Koop. Remember, keep your focus and stay wokeless.
Within the first week or two of his presidency, Joe Biden delisted the Houthis as a terrorist organization. I have no idea why. But ever since the troubles that were happening in Israel, the Houthis have been, trying to feel their oats, backed by Iran. Iran seized an oil tanker today, I believe. I don't remember the name of it or where it was from. It wasn't an American tanker, but they did seize something recently. We should go over there and turn the Houthi area into a glass parking lot. This should not just be a SWAT shield, try to SWAT stuff out of the sky. We need to demonstrate, you go after us, you're going to die. And that's the way it just simply needs to be. And I don't know the extent of it. One of the things Ingram was talking about, again, I hate the reactionary tribal politics, was, the president, before he goes and does that, he really should go get authorization from Congress. You know what? He's reacting to attacks. I would support Donald Trump or George Bush doing this. And I think Joe Biden is doing the right thing by bombing these Houthi sites. I don't know enough about how he's carrying them out. I still need to hear more about it. But the right response is indeed to go after these folks. And it amazes me that we've got Republicans who have suddenly become gun shy on the world stage just because the other party is in power.
Yeah, that's insane. You and I are consistent about this. If the president does the right thing, we will support that thing. We'll support that president. We'll support that thing. I don't give a fuck if it's a D or an R or an I or whatever it is behind his name. I don't care. If he does the right thing, okay. So somebody, I don't believe it was Biden by any stretch, but somebody in the administration made the right decision and finally said, "All right, enough is enough." This is a gang of thugs who might have a little technology supplied to them by Iran, but they're really a gang of thugs, and they're holding the world economy hostage by doing this, and they think they have big dicks, so we're gonna chop their dicks off. Cool. But the thing is, you and I were involved in a couple of wars that, I think it was the right idea just to go hard, go fast, and destroy everything in front of you to make sure that you're a fan of Ender's Game, the novel,
Yes.
or the
Novel. The movie was kind of shit, but the novel, yes.
I liked the movie. I thought right actor, and I liked Harrison Ford as the Colonel. But anyway, there's that scene where he's in school and he picks up the claw and he beats the shit out of the bully and his bully's friends, and he gets asked, "Why did you do that?" And he says, "Because I had to win all the fights after that too." That's the philosophy. Winning that fight wasn't enough. I had to win all the fights after that too. Basically saying what we called a violence of action back in our profession, where you
the
just
establishment of deterrence.
Exactly. We go so hard that you don't have the capability of hitting us back. That's the
or
kind
even
of
wanting to.
Right. You just want to go, fuck, I'm sorry, man.
I'm done.
I've been in a couple of fights like that on the winning side. And like, dude, I'm like, all right. And it's you have to go that way with this stuff. And I don't think this administration is going to follow up with that. Do you remember the running joke back when Bill Clinton was president? And there's like, oh, we sent a couple of Tomahawk missiles up camels' asses.
Camel was in the ass. Yeah, I remember.
Right. And it was such a weak response where Ronald Reagan, it's like, okay, I'm gonna send my warplanes over there and just fucking scorch earth on you, fucking Gaddafi and Libya, and he responded. We went into Panama against a force that we outnumbered probably 10-1 and swept them off the face of the earth, because that's what you're supposed to do. You know what? You want to fuck with us? This is what you get.
Yeah. Warfare is not. It's not a fair fight. It's not supposed to be a fair fight.
It's not supposed to be a fair fight.
Movies. Fair fights are for movies and for dumbasses who've never been to combat.
Right. And me personally, in my life, I think that same way in street fights and any other kind of fight. I mean, you want to do this, then okay. You just brought a plastic spoon to a fucking bazooka fight, motherfucker. And so hopefully you'll learn from this and go away and teach your kids never to fuck with something like that again. You hope that humanity embraces that concept, but like these Houthis, why are we even talking about these pieces of shit? And I know you don't want to get caught up in this topic. I know you have other topics for us to talk about, but I just got to say this. If people don't realize how evil and how much mischief that Iran causes in the world, read, study, figure it out. Iran really, I think, is the cradle of the fucking devil. And I mean that sincerely in every way that I can possibly say that. I think Iran philosophically is worse than Russia. I think China's evil too, but Iran is really, really, really. China is trying to do it through subterfuge and financial and all that kind of thing. Iran really wants to kill everybody that doesn't look and act and speak like them. They really do. They want to kill people.
Yeah, look, Russia and China, for all their evil, are still rational state actors. They will act in what they think their best interests are. But, Putin, you notice, so far has not popped a nuke to try and take over Ukraine because it's not in his interest. Does anybody think that if Iran got nukes, they wouldn't immediately try to use them against Israel? Of course they would. They are not rational state actors. If we could find a way to overthrow the Iranian regime and install, something halfway decent, then we could probably get peace to break out in most of the Middle East, because, well, not only would the threat of Iran running roughshod across the Middle East fade, but you'd also, the Palestinians in both Hezbollah and Hamas would lose their primary financial and weapons backers. So that, they'd wither on the vine because the Saudis and the Jordanians and the Egyptians don't want to support the Palestinians because they know what troublemakers Hamas and Hezbollah are.
Right.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm reserving judgment for the tactics, but for actually doing the action, I do applaud the president for this. I hope that we go in there full force. I don't know if we will, but I applaud him for that.
I do too. Yep. Support Joe Biden in that and the administration in that action. Absolutely, 100%.
And yeah, Joey, I'm going to tell you, when I was part of the Crusades in the 12th century, we really brought it to them.
Well, I came out of a office building in 1952 and I saw two Iranians kissing, and my dad said, "That's love, Joey."
Yep. So we've been both depressing and somewhat serious during the podcast.
All right. Let me. I know you're running the show tonight, but I promised to play a video. I think this is
okay. Go ahead.
Speak at intermission because I can put my commercial in here too. So
okay.
you ready for the video that I want to show you?
Sure.
I apologize. I know you're running the show tonight.
You're fine.
All right, buddy. Just want to make sure. Here we go. All right.
Sneak peek.
Up my Murphy bed, sat down to scratch my head. What could this day bring? It could be anything. I get the phone call, I gotta help them all. Go girl will save the day, Chow will not get away. It didn't take me long to find the ticking bomb. He took off in my Jeep, that Chow is such a creep. I gotta find a way to take down Chow one day. He pulled a ninja move, it got me to be fooled. You know what? Maybe I too could be ninja. I want to be ninja. I want to be ninja. I want to chop Chow down, take Chow down to Chinatown. I want to be ninja. I started training hard, I think I could go far. I am a natural, that's matter factual. I learned to chop real hard, I fight with credit card. I use my nunchucks, even while feeding ducks. I throw my ninja star, also very far. I do karate moves, with a go-girl move. I learn my ninja kicks, while watching Netflix. I try to everything, like on the big screen. And you guys, you know what? I might do it. I might be a ninja soon. I gonna be ninja. I gonna be ninja. I gonna chop Chow down, take Chow down to Chinatown. I gonna be ninja. I practice every day. I practice every way. I don't always do good, I really wish I could. I drink from sippy cup, you know I won't give up. I gotta try my best, you can't expect no less. That Chow has not a clue, it's too good to be true. I'm making progress, feels good I must confess. I catch a flying tick, with my chopstick. I take down anyone, ha, this is getting fun. You guys, I think I almost a ninja. I almost.
What the hell was that?
Oh my God. My favorite part of that video was that she was so aggressive in front of and they kept the camera on the one Asian woman that was actually in the room.
That's one of the things I'm gonna mention in a second.
Go ahead, man.
All right, so several thoughts about whatever the hell it was we just saw.
I should probably have children with that woman because they would be amazing.
Okay, First of all, this is not one of the ones that you could pass off as something from the 90s or the early 2000s.
No, this is like 2 years ago.
Yeah, they had the iPhones out filming her, so this is somebody in today thought that was a good idea. And all right, not only did they think that was a good idea, the I be ninja. I mean, like a white lady singing that kind of Asian stereotypes might not be
the blondest, most Southern California looking woman on plastic. I'm sure she's got fake, whatever on planet Earth. She's got a social media account. I've checked it out. I saw this on a comedy podcast that I watch on YouTube sometimes, and it was this comedian that I like, and then he's got this sidekick who's like this fat Asian guy, and he played it to make him really uncomfortable. And then I went over to the YouTube channel to pull this down today, and I'm looking, and it's like, I'm Asian, and I want this to be played at my memorial. I'm Asian, and this is going to be the theme for the rest of my life. I mean, you got to love Asian people because they actually have a sense of humor about things.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was doing karate chops at the Asian chick. Oh my God.
That was my next point. Was if you notice the Asian woman there had like a pseudo half smile to her face the whole time. It was like, I mean, she's like, the look on her face said, "I really want to punch this bitch in the throat," but that would look bad on video.
Right.
And then, right next, of course, the best contrast was right next to that lady were another two blonde white women that were just having a ball at these lyrics. I think one was brunette, one was blonde,
and that was only half the song, by the way. So, I just want everybody to know that I will put a link. I will put a link on the YouTube video to the actual the whole video, because this lady, she seems like a hoot. She's doing a parody of like the rich, and she wears pink a lot and does a lot of stupid videos and stuff like that. So she's doing a parody of white women who don't get it. I mean, I think this is actually probably a funny comedian type who might actually have some talent.
I hope so, because what was going through my mind was, what agent decided to completely crash his client's career by having her get up and do this?
No, she's not like some huge celebrity.
But she never will be now.
I don't know. I mean, guys like, they were playing it on a podcast that I like a lot, and I'm watching this going, and then I saw it's like, is this racist? Is this all these reaction videos? You know how reaction videos are all the rage, and it's like, I think it's like kind of anti-racist because I think she's making fun of white women who don't know any better than to do something racist. I think that's to me, that's what the gag is.
I hope that's what the gag is, because
I'm actually quite sure of it after watching her channel a little bit. I was like kind of fascinated to know, who is this chick, and it's
I'm gonna have to look this up afterwards.
She's very funny. I mean, you got to admit, she's very funny in the way she's over dramatizing. And for those of you that are podcast listeners only, I highly want you to go to our YouTube channel, because I will be putting a YouTube video up a day after our podcast hits that will show this, and then I will link it. I thought she's hilarious. I don't know.
It was one of those cringy videos. Well, one of my favorite things, one of the few things Saturday Night Live does well anymore, is the end of year joke swaps between Michael Che and Colin Jost.
Yeah. I think that's the only thing funny on there anymore, quite honestly.
I agree. So watching how uncomfortable Colin gets when he has to read those jokes. I don't know if you saw it this year, but this year they brought a woman who had marched with Dr. Martin Luther King and was in a wheelchair. They brought her up to sit next to Colin on the show. Jokes. And obviously this was on the teleprompter or the cue cards. After one of the jokes, he reached over and was supposed to tried to give the woman a pound, a fist pound, and she just wasn't having it. It was hysterical. But this seems to be in that kind of vein, or at least I
No,
hope so.
I think this is an Andy Kaufman kind of, you know me.
Yeah.
I like that kind of sense of humor, even if I'm the only one getting it. And how aggressive she is in her own house in front of her, like
Around the Asian woman that she's doing the
right.
karate chops at was
I think she's amazing. I do. Yeah. Yep. If she wants me to make her scrambled eggs, I'm up.
okay. Well, that did help get us into the more fun part. There's not too much
That's
left,
right. That's right.
but you know we've been depressing, we've been sad, we've been super serious. So let's have some fun. I think the IB Ninja lady was kind of fun. I got two other things that were in the news recently or were coming out. One, I don't know if you saw the story that the Navajo have claimed the moon as their own. Have you seen this? Koop has just turned his hat around backwards for those who can't see. So for those that don't know what's going on, NASA is talking about bringing some remains of some famous people to basically bury them on the moon. They were going to grab like some remains of George Washington, some of the ashes of Gene Roddenberry, and they were going to take them to the moon. Well, the Navajo Nation, or at least a member of the Navajo, objected, claiming how the moon has special spiritual significance to the Navajo, and so it would be a sacrilege to put human remains on the moon. Well, first of all, I just want to say if we are now allowed to claim celestial bodies, I hereby lay a claim to Titan. I know it's probably got a bunch of fuel and other stuff we can mine on there. And if we ever find one of those Iridian asteroids, I want that too. That's holy to my religion of dollar signs. So therefore, I hereby lay claim to any body, any celestial body that may exist out there. Koop, you have any thoughts on the Navajo owning the moon?
I have so many thoughts that I can't share on this microphone right now, brother. I will say this though, as a man who is white as Casper's ass, who invented things like, oh, I don't know, math and telemetry and rocketry and all that kind of thing, then I'm claiming the entire fucking universe.
Well,
I share a lot of DNA with Oppenheimer, for instance, and
telepathic
Goddard,
slugs from Alpha Centauri might take issue with that.
Goddard and all that. Fuck the fucking fuck off about this stuff. Just fuck. This stuff is so stupid. Okay, so you know how mad I get about when people who claim to be libertarians say we can't be interventionist and we need to only worry about our borders and stuff like that. How childish I find that attitude. And I find that attitude completely childish and infantile. This is worse than that. This is worse than that. You don't think that every culture in every continent in every society has not looked up to the moon and found spiritual significance with it? You stupid fucks. Jesus Christ, shut up. Shut up. I don't care. I don't care about your I'm very on record with this. I don't care about your I don't care if I offend you, Navajos. I don't care. Fuck off. Shut up. 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 Because if anybody has laid claim to the solar system, it's motherfuckers that look like this. Okay? Neil Armstrong looked like me. All right. So should I be that kind of a dick? Should I be a racist dick and say that? NASA was, founded by Jesus Christ, a bunch of guys in white shirts with collars and black clip-on ties with, hornbill glasses who are all fucking shut up about this already. Just let humans be humans. That's oh my God. This actually makes me mad. This actually makes me mad. Thanks, Russ.
Speaking of
thanks, Russ. Thanks.
Speaking
I
of
was
magic
all like,
Native Americans,
I need to be a ninja, and then making fun of that gal and all that. And now I'm
speaking of magic Native Americans, I don't know if you've caught any of Marvel's Echo.
I haven't watched it yet.
All right, for those, look, I'm a big MCU fan from about No Way Home and before. Endgame, Infinity War, Captain America, Winter Soldier. But
Sure.
since then, Marvel has gone to complete crap.
I agree. I
And
agree.
the new Marvel Echo, several points. First of all, they really made a point of playing up Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin in the trailers. And from what I understand, he really doesn't make all that many appearances.
Well, I mean, I love his character. I did you watch Daredevil
I did.
and
I did.
Punisher and Punisher?
Yes. And
Yes,
that's
and he was an amazing Kingpin.
he
I
was,
love.
but apparently
Yeah.
he's not as prominent in this as the trailers make it look. And then I don't know if you saw there was a fight scene with Daredevil in the trailers. The actual Matt Murdock Daredevil
Oh,
makes an
is it the
appearance in
same
this.
actor? Is the same actor?
Yeah, same actor and everything.
Oh good. God bless America, because I love him as Daredevil.
Yeah, and I'm sure it draws a lot of viewers at first until you find out it's a cameo that he's in the thing for like a minute and a half, and he's not. I don't know if he ever shows up again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it was a nice little fun
Fuck.
ploy. They focus a lot on the Indian or Native American lead, the silent lead, I guess. And it's not like they actually.
You mean the deaf American?
Yeah, they go in, they don't do a background for this, but from what I've read, she actually uses no shit magic in this thing, like
What?
stuff just appears. So
That wasn't her
it sounds
character
like
at all.
another.
That wasn't her character at all.
Yeah, well, it sounds to me like a new She-Hulk, and
Oh my
I think
God.
this is
What
going
are
to be
they
another
doing?
nail
What
in
are
the coffin.
they haven't learned? They haven't
No,
learned?
no. I mean, they don't seem to understand the core demographic of comic book movies and TV shows. You can bemoan the 23-year-old nerd virgin all you like, but
Yeah.
that's the guy who consumes this stuff. Don't get me wrong. I know some women who really do like the comic book stuff. I know a shitload more men who like the comic book stuff. It's like a picture I've seen going around on the
Like
internet.
out of 100, 97 of them are guys like you, me, and a 23-year-old who's never been laid.
Yeah, well, it's like I've seen this picture going around on the internet of some girl from 1977 after the Star Wars movies came out that she had made her own rebel pilot uniform, and the caption is "Don't tell me women don't know anything about Star Wars." And I'm like, that's great. That woman is an anomaly. She is not the usual sort of folks that consume Star Wars. I'm glad for her. I'm glad
100%
she's
right.
out there, but she's not the vast majority.
I wish more women did understand that, because I am not being misogynist here. I'll just every time I say something like this, then I'm exactly what that I'm not going to do. But no, I'm actually serious about this. I've had to explain, I think, to every woman I've been in a relationship with why I love sci-fi. And it's like, I shouldn't have to explain this. It's a template. It's a template for examining the human condition in no other way that you possibly can. Okay. So you like to go back to, watch, all these English shows with now all the English shows are like racially diverse and they're at court, and like Queen Catherine is a black woman for some reason, which that's not true. So you like to do it that way. Okay. But here's the thing. Sci-fi allows you to examine the human condition in no other way that you can possibly do it. It allows possibilities that we don't even have right now, but it also allows us to examine how we have relationships now in a bigger context. That's what I love about sci-fi. It's not laser guns and rockets and all that kind of thing. I mean, watch The Expanse and not think that is one of the deepest shows that you ever watch in history about how politics and relationships. Watch Battlestar Galactica, the modern series, and see how deep that goes into religion and all these other things. You can't examine that in any historical or modern context better than that. So I try to tell women that I'm with, friends or relationships or whatever. It's like, this is why I love it. This is why I love it. And also, my eyes are to the stars. I always thought human beings had a better destiny than just sitting around here and fucking around with each other and putting up photos of each other and going, hey, look at me. There's a really cool thing behind me, but I want you to see my face instead of, the cool thing behind me. I always thought human beings were better than that. That's
Did you
what I
ever
love about sci-fi.
did you ever watch Babylon 5?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, I liked it a lot, and
But no, it's a great show. It's a great TV show.
look, this is going to sound sappy. I get that, but the Commander Sinclair character in there had a great line. He was being interviewed about, why, when we have so many problems on Earth, why is humanity going to space? And he said, you ask 10 different scientists a question about biology, genetics, the environment. You might get 10 different answers.
Sure.
But there's one thing about which they will all agree. Whether it's 1,000 years from now, 10,000 years from now, 10 million years from now, 5 billion years from now, eventually our sun is going to burn out and grow cold. And when that happens, it's not just going to take us. It's going to take Marilyn Monroe and Lao Tzu and Socrates, and everything that we struggled for is for nothing unless we go to the stars. It's sappy, but it was a very poignant
No, it's beautiful.
moment.
It's
I
beautiful.
completely agree with.
That's absolutely makes my heartstrings sing. No, it's beautiful. I 100% agree with that. That's when people start slamming on people like Elon Musk and all that kind of thing. It's like, these are the people that are going to get us there. He's gonna have a bust somewhere on some planet, maybe around Sirius B, on when we settle, and there's going to be a huge statue of Elon Musk, because he's going to be that godfather that got us there. He's going to be I fucked up. I really wanted to pull that name out of my mouth, but the one who invented the warp drive in Star Trek.
Zefram Cochrane.
Zefram Cochrane. He's going to be the Zefram Cochrane of the next generation. He is. I mean, he's weird, and he's a little wacky, and I may not agree with all of his statements and all that kind of things, but he's going to be the Zefram Cochrane of our generation. He is. He's going to put our foothold on there. And someday they're going to build a monument to him on Mars, or maybe even that little planet that seems habitable around Sirius B. And if those of you that don't know what that means, fucking do some research.
Was it Sirius B that they found the dimethyl? What was? Hang on a second. They found. I don't know if you're even aware of this, but hang on. We can edit part of this, I guess. It's dimethyl. They found they found a molecule in the atmosphere around one of the planets. Maybe it's dimethyl sulfide. No, it's not that.
I actually do know what you're talking about, and I'm embarrassed because I have a biology degree and took a lot of chemistry. I can't remember the name, but it
okay. It is dimethyl sulfide. It was found around the exoplanet K218b, or they think they found it there. They still got to do tests. I guess they got to check to see if they've actually found it. But on Earth, that particular molecule is only produced by life.
Right.
So
right,
it's real, and it's possible that there's life on another planet. That doesn't mean that they found the Vulcans or anything.
It does not. But it's neat, and there could be other ways that we don't know about that molecules. And I apologize. I should have known that off the top of my head with my old biology and chemistry background. One of the things that has also been found is they've found organic molecules in the atmosphere of Venus. They found some weird stuff out there. I can tell you, I know our we probably lost 90% of our pod listeners already, but
oh well, I like talking about this, and it's our podcast, so fuck them.
The James Webb Telescope has changed everything. That thing is amazing. I follow it daily to see what updates it brings in. That thing has changed our entire view of cosmology, of exobiology, of everything. People that if you're not into this, folks, you should be. Tap into what James Webb is showing us about the age of the universe, about how galaxies are constructed, about all of that. That is literally, so you can talk about relativity. You can talk about a lot of the DNA, being able to figure out the helix. as some of the greatest scientific achievements in history, antibiotics. The James Webb Telescope is the greatest thing we've ever done in science history.
Yeah. Well,
It
look,
is.
there. One thing I want to point out, because folks say, well, we don't know if there's probably not intelligent life out there, or it's so rare. Let me put the numbers into perspective. If everybody knows how vast the Milky Way galaxy is, how big it is, how many stars it has, how many planets it has. But let's say intelligent life is super rare. Let's say 1 in every 10,000 galaxies has an intelligent civilization. Only 1 in every 10,000 galaxies has an intelligent civilization. That still means that there are approximately 100 million intelligent civilizations somewhere in the universe.
Right.
If it's more prevalent than that, then that's even more. And yeah, I get sappy and nerdish talk about sci-fi stuff because that is the future. It's one of the things I really enjoy. Now, kind of swerving back to our original point, folks like Koop and I get into this. That's why sci-fi shows are usually targeted at men and they're not targeted at women. I had to, there are women out there that love sci-fi, and that's great. My wife really likes the Avengers movies and the Captain America movies, but I had to basically take her to see them. I mean, she wasn't like she was just banging down the doors to go see them. I think I've got Amelia into Star Wars and Star Trek now, so that's good. But it's still the core demographic, the core audience of this stuff are men or teenagers between the ages of 15 and 35, and you don't increase the size of that audience by pissing on them and all this other stuff that I don't know if folks remember how he's got for Marvel Comics in the 90s when they went that route. They got so bad they were selling off their franchises. That's why the X-Men and Spider-Man were not part of the MCU to begin with.
Right. Right.
They're doing that same thing with the MCU. They're doing that same thing with Star Wars. I don't get it unless it's just to poke a thumb in the eye of men and fight the patriarchy. But it's really destroying franchises.
Rise up against your oppressors.
Yeah, it's really destroying franchises. But I wanted to bring up Marvel's Echo because everything I've read about it, I haven't actually seen it. I don't know that I'm gonna waste my time based on the stuff that I've read.
Is it actually out right now?
Yes.
Okay, I should probably, after we get off. I thought a new episode of For All Mankind was dropping today, but it's not till tomorrow.
Yeah, I gotta watch the one that came out last week, and then I'll watch the one for
Brazil.
tomorrow.
Yeah, you be prepared for a bit of a shock. And
okay, don't say a word. I'm into the series.
No,
so
I know. I'm just be prepared for a bit of a shock in this one.
I got it. I understand. I know that's what they do. Don't ruin it for me.
They like to do that in this series.
So real quick, the thing with
I'll jump up and start watching Echo tonight, I think, because I'm intrigued by the character. I think the character is good. That was in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I think when she got introduced, and I know that was a short series, but all right, she's by far of legal age. So, Hailey Steinfeld, I have a crush on her. I do. I totally have a crush on her.
Well, one thing I need to search it out. And I'm kind of looking for it on YouTube here in a second, but I want to see what the Critical Drinker has to say about it because I'm sure he's going to review it.
But no, she got in on the action in Hawkeye.
Have you watched the Critical Drinker at all?
Everybody tells me I should, and I me, I only have so many hours in a day, bro.
Oh, you got it. Tell you what, give me half a second. There's one in particular that
you've still never watched Zack Snyder's Justice League cut.
No, and I'll get to it. All right.
Yeah, you'll get to it. All
right. Listen, pull up Critical Drinker, What Happened to Our Villains, and you'll enjoy it.
YouTube?
Yeah. Critical Drinker. If you type in Critical Drinker Villains, it's the first video that pops up.
All right. I promise you before the next podcast, I will watch that.
Yeah, watch that one. And then
I give you my solid word as a Gary Owen motherfucking Cav motherfucker.
Yeah, so just watch that. He's now his Scottish accent in real life. He's got a Scottish accent in real life, but it's not as pronounced as he has it in his videos. He he plays it up more in his videos, but it really adds to what he's talking about. And look, he's not always critical. There have been movies that the critical drinker has endorsed, but there's, it's funnier when he's trashing a movie. So it's and he doesn't just trash specific movies. Sometimes he'll trash a specific movie. Sometimes he'll talk about general trends like the villains. So just watch that. I think you'll enjoy that.
I will do that. What else you got on your list there, partner?
Well, the only other thing I had was, I know you had a couple of jokes you said you wanted to tell.
Well, yeah, I can only remember one of them, unfortunately. It's been a long podcast. It's been a stressful week, so I just wanted to give you a my heritage. For those of you
Yes.
that don't know, I am the grandson of a man I'm named after,
Very
Anton.
bad man.
He was not a bad man. He didn't do anything bad. He was just defending his family.
The
But
lightning bolts might have said something else.
he got cleared by the British through all that process. He wasn't a war criminal, but he might have been in the German army, and he might have been an officer, and he might have had a certain idle vice, and I won't even say it. But anyway, I'm not, and my mother adored him, and it took him 5 years to come home from the war after the war was over, because he was in concentration camps in Russia, and he was in a prison in Britain. And anyway, I'm proud of my grandfather, but not he. I don't know that he had any views. I never met the man, but he loved his family, and he made it home. But so I'm that German. My mother grew up in Grassau in Chiemgau in Bavaria, and remembered the Americans rolling into her village. Invading would be a gross overstatement of what happened, but she remembers them, and she loved the Americans, and she learned to speak English by working in American officers' homes as a nanny and a maid and stuff like that. And she had impeccable English, man. She was hard on us for our English. If I said ain't, oh my God, she'd be like, Anton. I mean,
hey, real quick. Did you ever, another thing just to YouTube, I know that we've lost half the audience or more by now, but
I don't care.
Have you ever seen
Welcome.
Have you ever seen the speaks, how to, why German is such a harsh language, or how to speak harshly in German as compared to other languages? Have you seen that video on YouTube? It'll have somebody saying something in English, and then in French, and then Italian, or maybe Portuguese, and then you have the German come over like, I mean, it's
right.
It's
so
hysterical.
This is going to go well with my joke. So this is my German knock knock joke.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm prepared.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Open the fucking door.
Oh, that was awful. It's almost as bad as the other one I've seen. You know, Karl Marx. You know who Karl Marx is, right?
Yeah, no, I have no idea who Karl Marx is, you dumb bastard. I have 2 bachelor's degrees and 3 master's degrees.
Okay, so you know Karl Marx had a wife that's almost as lionized as he was. Her name is Anya. They even shout her name at the beginning of races.
That's funny. That's funny.
Thank you, everyone. Okay.
I can't believe you didn't like my knock knock joke.
That was, I don't know, German just kind of goes over the top sometimes.
That's the point. That was the whole point.
Look, my grandfather, his mom was full-blooded German.
Yeah.
And one of the habits she brought over with her that my grandmother couldn't stand until the day she died was and I know they had to do this in the olden days because it was a different time, but anytime she cooked meat for my grandmother and my grandfather, what did she do first before she cooked the meat? She boiled it.
Oh, yeah. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah, get all the poison out of it.
Yep.
So
anyway, that's all I have for tonight's show. We've been on for more than an hour and a half. I think we've had some some fun times. Maybe we pulled Koop a little bit out of his depression.
Yep,
I hope so.
I was counting on that, brother. I was counting on that. Thank you for helping me with that. I appreciate it. So I can march forward into 2024, hoping Kalen DeBoer is still our coach.
Let's
And
hope so.
yeah, me too. I hope he's not that guy.
And with the transfer portal, Washington could be good real quick again.
They're not going to be bad next year by any. And looking at the recruiting and they're not going to be bad. They snagged a great quarterback out of Mississippi State on the transfer portal.
Okay.
So and yeah, we're losing our top 3 receivers, but we have some good receivers. I don't know. I think it could be a fun year. Looking at the young guys stepping up and all that kind of thing. I don't know. I'm trying to remain positive about it. I hope Kalen realizes this is a destination program. UW is where you can go to die as a coach. It can be. It really is. I know you've never been up here to Husky Stadium in Seattle and all that. I know you spent a minimum amount of time at Pacific Northwest, but it's fucking lovely. And that's the best stadium in college football. I mean, that you can literally take a boat to the game. You can literally take a boat from the ocean. You can get there to the game. I mean, there's no other place somewhere like that.
In fairness, coaching and success are big deals because, first of all, we talked about Nick Saban earlier. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how many people remember the years in Alabama before Nick Saban. I mean, from Bear Bryant to Nick Saban, Alabama was in the wilderness. I mean, so that is a point in Saban's favor regarding the coaching pantheon. I'll give him that. So, Washington, if they can keep DeBoer, and plus this year with the transfers and with everything, it could be similar to what happened to Gonzaga. For those who don't know, back in 1999 was, I think, Gonzaga's first real big year. They went to the Elite Eight. I made a lot of money off of an NCAA pool because for some reason I picked them to get all the way to the Elite Eight, and they have, established a reputation for success. So they get more success and better players and so on and so forth. Today they are, pretty much consistently in the top 25, and they've even played for a national championship. So, maybe Washington, maybe the Huskies now can establish something like that. They're going to be in the Big Ten next year. They're going to be playing Ohio State. They're going to be playing Penn State. They're going to be playing Michigan. It's kind of weird that they're going to be playing all these Midwestern teams being from, Washington, but it could lead to other stuff.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of what happened with all this. It's a totally different conversation for a different time about the realignment and then going to the Big Ten, because I love the Pac-12 the way it was, but the administrators drove it into the ground. But here's the thing. I think if Kalen DeBoer stays there and keeps the system in place, I think he needs to make some changes on the defensive side. To be honest with you, on the coaching side, I'm not a fan of some of the stuff that happened this year. Although those boys did step up in tough situations, even in the national championship. I don't know. I want this to be a destination program. You know how much I love my Huskies. I love them almost more than I love anything else in the world. And we'll see where it goes from there. This Big Ten realignment thing next year is going to be interesting, to say the least. You haven't moved for like 30 seconds. Are you dead?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm listening raptly.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you are, as you always do. But no, I appreciate it. We'll see what plays out. I really hope Kalen DeBoer stays. I like the guy. I think there's been some coaching mistakes down the pike here in the last 2 games, but he sounds like a guy that's willing to learn. And that's all you ask about anybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he obviously has most of the tools in place. I think maybe not having Michael Penix as a quarterback, who was just magic all year.
He'll be a top 5 pick. Even with his last game, he'll be a top 5 pick.
Yeah, he was magic all year. Maybe not having that magic might make him a better coach and might make them rethink about how to attack this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, you ride that war horse, and that war horse is eventually going to break down. And Michael Penix did clearly in the championship game. He wasn't there. He wasn't there. He wasn't a good quarterback in that championship game. And God bless him. He's always going to be one of my favorite Huskies. And Russ,
So
you
let's
have
get
no
off of here
idea.
before you get depressed again, because we pulled you out of it. I don't want you pulled. I don't want you dragged
You have
back
no
in.
idea how much this hurt me. You have no idea how much this hurt me, man. It was like I felt disemboweled on Monday night. I was just like, whoa, I gotta carry my guts over to the sink.
This will heal eventually. It may take a while, but it'll heal. So that's why I had some fun tonight. Got some new stuff.
Yeah,
Don't forget
hey, thank you for providing the the
format.
organization. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Maybe you should do that from now on. What do you think?
We should alternate.
No, that sounds good. We could definitely do that. I loved it. So anyway, we'll get out of here. For all of you following us, we would really appreciate your support. So here's how you can support us. And I'm just going to be down and dirty about this.
We need your cash.
You can like us over on YouTube, and that'd be amazing. You could subscribe over there too. That'd be amazing. You could also go to our Two Grumpy Bastards merchandise.com page and buy some really cool shit. I don't know, Russ. I know you're cheap as shit. You never bought anything that I've ever done, but it's
I need
cool.
to do that, but I'm in the midst of, let me send my oldest daughter off to college first to make sure I have enough money.
Or you can go to Patreon, which is also Two Grumpy Bastards. And Russ has started to chip in on Twitter,
Yes.
which is
people love me there.
The number 2 grumpybastards.com, and follow us over there. And we're creating some havoc over there. I lit up a couple people today over there, Russ, just to let you know.
Good. I need to see it.
Yep, I did. A couple of our favorite people ever over there. and just like and support us. That's all. The best thing you can possibly do is rate us on Amazon Podcasts. That's the best way for us to get a little bit of traffic. So anyway, with that, we're going to sign off here. Thank you all for indulging my somewhat stupid vacancy because I've been in depression mode. I'll be back ripping it up next week. Hope you enjoyed the video we shared with you. That was awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up right after this. I'm gonna look up that woman right after this.
I think her and I should have had children. I think they'd be amazing.
Yeah, okay.
All right, I'm just saying. I can imagine my children like doing fucking karate moves behind her. Because
I've got an image of like 3 girls and a boy all like doing like Power Ranger poses.
My black belt in 2 different fucking disciplines would have come in handy at that point. It's been all right. Go get them. Although I don't know that if like some girl that I was in a relationship with said, I'm going to do a video in our bedroom that's called I Want to Be a Ninja and I'm going to film it. I don't know that I would have been okay with that. I don't know that I went, okay, honey, well, mix me another highball and I'll be over here with Buffy. No, I don't think I would have done that. I'd have been like, shut the fuck up and put the Costco lasagna in the toaster oven.
High class.
All right, buddy. Hey, love you, man. And it's good to see you as always. And as we always say, remember to keep your focus and
stay wokeless.